So now we have our splotch, so what's next? This is where things get interesting. You are now going to find a photo on your camera roll, something that you took, okay? You're not looking all over the internet. You need to find a photo or go outside and take a photo, it's fine. And what you're gonna try and match up is something that you can do over the splotches, and it's gonna be real loose, and you have to be okay with the unevenness. So say something like this, there's an unevenness to this texture of the wood, there's an unevenness, you know, here. It's okay. This part that's blown out and too white anyways, this little splotch area over here could actually add a lot more interest to it. So something like this, I could do this whole bridge and the water right here, and the unevenness of the splotches is just gonna work its way into the project. Something like this would actually work great. What I'm looking for is there anywhere that needs to stay the white of the paper? And on this, you know, there's a couple of highlights up here, and those could stay out here still. So this bulk part in the middle is okay with this. If I extend these, railings, those highlights can still stay on the white of the paper. I don't want this part back here to be white anyways, so that works out great. So here are a couple of examples of past students. And this one's real subtle, but you can see this yellow splotch back here, and then there's another yellowish kind of splotch back here. You can see this green one too. And the splotches are worked into the design really well, and normally this person would probably not have done that sort of thing, so you get a little bit of movement. You get a little bit of movement that you normally wouldn't get. Here's another example, original. So you can see it's definitely there, but real subtle underneath. You see there's a splotch of this kind of reddish, and then this kind of yellowish, a little bit more over here. So some people, this project is really difficult because if you are a little bit of a control kind of person, you have to let some things go. But this chalkboard, you know, it's just a flat chalkboard, so having these splotches kind of works, it makes it more interesting. So one more photo that goes along with the original, and once again, the purple, the orange, this purple, this orange, the orange that goes on the faucet but also translates back behind it, all of that. That person never would have integrated in those colors or those splotches until they were made to. But you can see how it totally works, and it adds a different element. It's a little bit more of a painterly approach. So now we're breaking free from just trying to make it look exactly like the picture. We're not going photorealistic. We're using the photo as inspiration, and then we are gonna integrate the photo with it. But we're also letting these splotches kind of help us free up and get a little bit more outside the box thinking. So I have a few examples of some photos that could potentially work, but I need to show you what you cannot do. This is not a project where your splotches, you automatically say, okay, here's clouds, and I can do like mountains or something here. So you're not going to just find a photo like this. First of all, you cannot do silhouette. That's a cop-out. We're not going to do silhouette on this project. So you need something that you can actually still try and create 3-dimension, like we've been working towards, but you're not going to choose a picture that's mostly sky. So you can't do something like this. You can't do something like this, where all your splotches just become clouds. We got to think a little bit deeper than that. So say something like this. I could easily do this chair. It's modeled with light and shadow. I could easily put this chair right here, and then this part will just work its way into trees and the background. So that photo would work great too. This is one that a few people have used, this example that you've seen. So this is the original photo for that. One thing you can do too is, if I look at this, where do I maybe need some highlights? Where is the biggest splotches? So maybe I don't want this splotch to be here. How does this photo look? How would this look this way? I think I like it better this way. So make sure you look at it from all the different angles too. This photo would work great. Something like this, if we're not going to use black, you would have to use other colors anyways. So having that movement, This project is really forcing you into movement, and it's forcing you out of your comfort zone because you have to work within the splotches. Something like this. This is not the most exciting photo. It's just mostly of a sidewalk. So if I did something that had the splotches, you can see how there's already unevenness. So then that would work and it would make it more interesting. And here's a vertical shot. So something like this, I could definitely match that up. So all the splotches, just understand the splotches are going to become part of the background, and you're going to be able to see the splotches. You're not covering them up. You do need to paint in a way that you're integrating the splotches with your project. All right, we'll move on to the next step. Here's another example. This one is a little bit more of how we do it in class when we have the paper stretched down. So you can see the blue and this rust kind of color are my original splotches. There's a real dramatic one right here, a little bit more subtle one right here, a little bit heavier one here all over. So you can see the sketch. We have this group of chairs. It's kind of a bunch of patio chairs. This first one right here, because you can see the photo it's based off of. My main thing was making sure that the highlights on some of these chairs, that I could retain that. So as I translated that here, you can see I still have a highlight of that chair right there. I'm going to be able to have highlights on the edges here. I'm going to be able to keep that white, and I've kind of placed it so that I could keep those highlights. So if you look at this versus the original photo, I cropped in a little bit here. This shadowy figure is going to be over here, kind of off to the side, but he's in this blue area. And I have the light spectral highlights that I can still do here and here and here. So you can see now, this back of this chair, I'm using this rusty color because, you know, these are metal chairs. There's an unevenness to it as we start and build up. So all those splotches are just getting utilized into the final end result. It's going to make it a lot more interesting interpretation of this photo. So remember, now that we have been doing a little bit of watercolor painting, we have to make that step from just copying what we see in front of us to being inspired and now creating something new out of it. So I'm creating a painting out of a photograph, and I need to interpret it in a little different way. So splotches force you to do that.